Hi, I'm Hal Kurfehs, and I'm here with Steve, and we're meeting for the first time.
We are.
We are now colleagues at our commercial real estate firm, and basically I'd like to know more about Steve, and perhaps he can start off by telling us that.
Sure, be happy to. My name is officially Stephen Thierfeld. My mom, when she's really mad at me, Stephen Matthew is what I get. But originally from West Hartford, so back in the area, I've kind of been all over the map. I graduated college in 2004, and within 2 weeks I was on a one-way airplane to the Big Island of Hawaii. And I lived on the Big Island for almost 7 years, and that's where I got into hospitality. Four Seasons was the official training for me, so it was, very professional. This was Hollywood's playground, so we were, mingling with a lot of stars. So it was a quick introduction for me to a totally different lifestyle from the Northeast. So almost 7 years there. Came back and did a little bit of restaurant work in the food and beverage industry at Mohegan Sun as a manager there. And then was off to California. I was in Southern California for almost 6 years. So for whatever reason, I keep leaving the East Coast and I keep coming back. But I'm here. I got into real estate in New York City with Marcus and Millichap in 2014, and was there for a few years. Came out to Stanford and was in residential world with Keller Williams. So I've been able to kind of mix and match between apartment buildings and shopping centers and even some office buildings to obviously helping people find homes, buying and selling homes, investment properties. So it was a little bit of a transition. And then coming over here to Scalzo, just trying to get my feet wet with working with a few guys doing some restaurant deals and some residential stuff. And, here we are together, you and I.
It's interesting. What year did you say you graduated from college?
2004.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated, and I shouldn't even say this, but I graduated in 62.
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway.
Well, that's the dynamic. We can both bring a little something to the
Absolutely.
table here. Yeah.
But now you said you have experience in retail and in residential in the sense of what, multifamily or
yeah,
just
multifamily, commercial stuff on the bottom with some residential upstairs, all residential, all commercial. My family also owns some property in Connecticut, so been able to learn a lot about leasing on that side of it too. Mm-hmm. So it's really a mixed bag of everything. Well,
I've been in this business for 35 years, and so I've done a little bit of mixed bag of everything too.
Yeah.
But two of the areas that I overlap with you on are retail and multifamily, because both of those areas have been quite prominent in commercial real estate.
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about one of those, retail
Sure.
perhaps?
Sure.
I mean, you have the knowledge. I have the experience as well.
Yeah.
So were you a member of the ICSC at the time? Or?
Yeah. So.
And some people might know what that means. I think it's the International Council of Shopping Centers.
That's it.
But in any event, how long were you involved with that?
Just a few years. It was actually interesting when I was with Marcus and Millichap. They have a lot of connections, obviously. They're a global brand, and they were the ones that introduced me. There was a representative for Marcus and Millichap on the West Coast where their office is, the headquarters. And they were the ones that got me signed up and hooked up, and it was interesting. Obviously, we're pre-COVID at this point, so
I know.
Everything now is like Zoom calls. And
well, the funny thing that I've learned about that, I used to go to the mall. You go to New York City, right. Vegas, Boston, Hartford. Wherever there was one that you could get to fairly easily. Except Vegas wasn't that easy, but it was kind of fun. It was a huge undertaking.
Sure.
And there was as much social life as there was business life.
Yeah.
But after a while, you get to think, well, I've been exposed to all of this. Why do I really need it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you have a shopping center, for instance, that you have to fill, you can do just as well by calling up a bunch of people or sending them emails or sending them proposals or whatever it might be, just as easily as going to these things and perhaps wasting a little bit of time. But it is very, 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 very valuable in the early stages, I would think, for the first 5-10 years at least.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think the shopping centers for me, it was kind of the kickoff. Really, you know, kind of gave me the opening to see, you know, a lot of the things that Marcus and Millichap talk about are the value add. You know, what type of properties are potential investors looking for, you know, where they can bring value, you know, to more, you know, to eventually maybe resell that property. So that was really the opening for me. It was obviously in life, everything's about timing, but the timing there really kind of gave me an opportunity to get in the door there with the shopping centers and, you know, working with large tenants like Stop and Shop, and then, you know, trying to fill smaller areas in a shopping center with the local, you know, mom and pop type shop. So it was neat to kind of balance also, you know, who you're talking to, corporate executives versus, you know, a mom and pop type shop that, you know, will also be working in the same complex.
So you did mostly leasing, is that it?
We sold shopping centers.
Okay.
Yeah, we did leasing and we sold. Marcus and Millichap is strictly sales, so there is no rentals, no leasing there. So that was the kickoff for me as far as selling property.
It's funny with the change in times. Used to be maybe 5-10 years ago. I don't know the exact timing. It used to be that you got a shopping center to sell, and it was like money in the bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's
Not so
much more difficult unless there's a food anchor, grocer anchor.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Or those REITs. You know, some of those really large guys where also it's very hard to get in touch with them. But
well, then again, they want the large shopping centers too. They
do.
You know, a strip center or something like that, where again that was very easy to sell.
100,000 square feet or more.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff we were concentrating on was some big stuff in Connecticut, in New York, you know, wherever really it took us. So we weren't, you know, just strictly Manhattan. We were, you know, wherever the business was, we would be able to at least bring something to the table that we could provide a value for, you know, our clients.
Where do you see retail going? What do you think is the trend? I mean,
it's tough. You know, you're seeing a lot more online.
Yeah.
You know, Amazon and, you know, all these.
And it's accelerating because of the pandemic.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
But you know, when you think about it, Steve, it's only about 15 to 20% of total sales.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a monolith.
People still need to see things. They still want to touch things. You know, you look and you see all these different malls that are going out. And then right down the street from us, you see a beautiful mall being built in Norwalk. And they just finished. And you think, okay, it's pandemic and there's all these things happening. And, you know, a new mall has opened. You know, you look at the Stamford Mall, you look at the Milford Mall, you look at some of these areas, you know, where it's been hit hard. And, you know, all these tenants left Stamford, and a lot of them did go to Norwalk. But, you know, people still want to see things. They still want to actually touch it before they buy it.
Yeah, that is certainly true. And I think what's happening also with retail is there's a melding of the online and the in-store type of experience. Because the online people are realizing that they can't make it big strictly online.
Right.
I mean, even Amazon is starting to develop local access. Well, actually, in terms of their warehousing and bringing it closer to market.
Yeah.
But also on the retail level, is starting to open up outlets.
Yes, they are.
In fact, I think there's one in the Norwalk Mall.
There is,
isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's just like anything else. After I finished corporate, I had my own company. Okay.
Okay.
And it was I was president and CEO. I had acquired a company and enlarged it, and it was a specialty company. It was a specialty of books, okay, on certain subjects.
We're going to get into details on this on our next episode.
Yeah, but I just to make a point.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to me.
It was good. Yeah. So it basically was a catalog type operation, and we were international.
Okay.
And the funny thing about it is everybody at that time, and this is going back to what, the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
At that time, everybody thought that catalogs would take over retail.
Yeah.
And it didn't really happen. In fact, all that happened was it enlarged the market. Mm-hmm. Okay, which was a good thing for both.
Sure.
The same thing is happening with online.
Yeah.
It looks like, they're going to take over the world.
Right.
Well, they maybe have 15% now. Maybe in a number of years they'll have 20, 25%.
Yeah.
But still the majority is, brick and mortar.
Right.
And brick and mortar was actually overbuilt even before the online came on stream. So it was a matter of some fallout anyway, right? And so I think that basically there'll be a meshing, and it'll come back just like my experience with, catalog type of operations.
You could have been the Jeff Bezos.
I could have been, but I am not.
You had the books. You had you just needed to get out to the West Coast and open up a little store that could just accommodate everything.
Yeah, in fact, the West Coast is interesting because when I was in one of the corporate jobs, we always looked at the West Coast for trends. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, if something happened out there, you watch it really closely.
Yeah.
To see if it will start to expand. And a lot of times it did expand throughout the United States.
Sure.
Just an aside, but you mentioned West Coast. That was interesting.
Yeah, well, Bezos got, he started here in the city, and
I know.
It's all books.
Did he? Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's
Amazon
right.
was books.
That's right. It was.
And then he went out to Seattle.
Yeah.
And he opened up this whole different game.
So maybe I gave him the idea to sell books.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, that was his original game plan. Was Amazon was a bookstore.
Yeah. Right.
And then now he just took over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We were in specialty books. I had two companies actually. One was military history.
Really.
And we had the largest number of titles on that subject in the world.
Really.
And then the second one was antiques and collectibles. That's the one I developed later. But so you couldn't make it as a general bookseller at that time.
Right.
You had to pick a category and be the best at that category.
Yeah.
In any event, so do you have any other thoughts about retail that important?
Well, I think going back off of what you said, I do think it comes back. I think there will be more of a mesh, like you said, about, how it comes back. But I think it will come back. I think it'll come back strong, depending on when we get majority of Americans can get vaccinated. I think we're in a holding pattern. I really think it's probably another year before we really start to see the movement that will bring us back. But I don't think we'll be held down. I think it'll come back. I think it'll come back strong. It's just a matter of time. So, but I think, we're still looking at 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, well, that's about right. I think that the pandemic will probably be over in, 8-10 months at most?
Yeah.
And then people have to get comfortable with the idea.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
To go out and go in public. So you're probably right there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dispute that at all.
Yeah, but I think there's still, for folks that are out there kind of wondering if they were in it, if they want to get back into it, or if it's something they want to get into for the first time. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think now is a good time to look into, if you're looking to expand as far as investments go, or you're looking to get into something, I think it's a good time to look, because a lot of people have struggled, and there are some opportunities to get in if you haven't been in before, or if you're trying to get back in, for whatever reason. So, I think it's coming back. I think it'll come back strong. It's just a matter of time. But I think probably next summer is if I could put a date on it.
I wouldn't think it would be that long.
You don't?
I think people, once they feel comfortable about something, they sort of like put it in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right.
Well,
of course, but
I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic.
I'm thinking fall is the time it's going to start coming back.
Okay.
And for both our sakes, I hope that's right.
Me too. You know, I think with us all being cooped up over the winter time, at least here on the East Coast, you know, summertime is going to be tricky.
Can you imagine what would happen to travel once it becomes acceptable to be out there again?
I know. Everybody's going to...
Their pent-up demand.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the case with a lot of different categories.
Absolutely. We were talking about that with the restaurants.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when the restaurants finally do come back and are open, you know, you talk about what people went through. You know, football is a huge sport in America, and you talk about what people missed this year with the NFL and college football and, you know, sports bars in particular. I think you're going to see a huge demand
the bar
for Sunday
bar
football.
hoppers must be going crazy.
Right. So in the fall, like you say, in the fall, as long as we can get through the summer, I think that's going to be the trickiest part for us, is because everybody's going to want to get back out. I hope we don't go too quickly. But if we can get back, like you say, in the fall, you know, I think sports bars are going to be huge because people are going to want to be in there watching games again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can watch the games. At least you can zero in on them and say, well, is this going to go or is it going to be canceled?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
So there's going to be some predictability, you might say.
Definitely.
You know, you talked about malls. I think there's a big misconception as to what's happening with malls. They're taking a hit now. I mean, there's no question about it. Number one, because of the fact that some of the big department stores are folding or having troubles.
Yeah.
You know, times are changing.
Yeah.
But most of the problems, I think, are in the B and C malls. Yeah. The A malls are pretty well established and financed, and they have momentum behind them.
That's the key.
Take, for instance, Danbury Fair Mall that we know. 1.2 million square feet. They had 5 anchors. 2 of the anchors have gone down, Sears and Lord & Taylor. Yeah. Now, Lord & Taylor wasn't a big anchor. It was about 80,000 square feet, but Sears was, you know, a couple 100,000, I believe. Yeah. And but the mall people are creating opportunities for us, okay? Yeah. For brokers, because in the past they used to do it themselves. They knew all of the players for the small parts of the, you know, the small retailers, and they just give them a call. Hey, do you want to come here? I have a space, or that sort of thing. But now they're in uncharted territory. They are. And they're starting to think, well, maybe we have to fill these big anchor places up with something different. Yeah. And whether it's housing, meaning apartments or condos, whether it's fitness, whether it's medical, whether it's theater. I mean, you can think forever about the various
driving range.
Yeah, sure, anything. I mean, some of the bigger malls have all kinds of things.
Yeah, we were talking about some of those Toys R Us ones too. Right. Babies R Us, Toys R Us, and, you know, concepts like indoor driving range. You know,
sure,
different
I mean, anything could go.
Now they have those high ceilings, and you know, you try to think outside the box.
Right now, these people that run these malls are not familiar with those categories. Right. So that gives us an opportunity. Yeah. For instance, right now I'm working on the Sears space in Danbury Fair Mall. Really? And I can't tell who it is yet, but it's looking good. And they would take a significant amount of that space. So I wouldn't have had that opportunity a year ago. Yeah. You know? But you know, I think the mall is recognizing that too, because the reason I got the entree was somebody from the mall who I know. I'm on the board with the manager of the person who runs the mall. Okay. And she called and said, "Hey, I'd like to meet our vice president for leasing for Macerich, which is the parent company. And actually, they're the 3rd largest mall operator in the country." And so we met and we talked about their needs. And as it turned out, I had somebody that was interested in the space. Didn't work out. Okay. But another opportunity came up, and this one looks like it might work out.
Great.
As I said, in our business, that's another opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because of changing times. If things stayed the same all the time, you wouldn't have opportunities opening up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You,
and that's
you agree
why I like to get into, like, I tried to do a little bit of the residential in Stanford. There's just something about the commercial kept bringing me back because of that. There's just always something new, you know.
Yeah.
You can keep trying to help people find homes, and I don't mind doing that, but there's something about that uniqueness to, you know, converting a Sears space into something else that can drive traffic back to that area, you know, because what I'm all about is I care about people, so I want to help as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And so if we can figure out a way to bring Danbury kind of back into that mall atmosphere with a different concept, you know, those are the type of things that really get me going. So, you know, like you talk about with the commercial and all these, you know, different unique ways that we can kind of approach different opportunities with the pandemic. That's what really, you know, has given me that extra spark to say, you know, the commercial thing is really what I want to be doing.
When I first got into the business, the company I was going with was just starting a commercial division, and they really wanted to take everything over. But there was a lag, and I had to work for a couple of months in residential. Mm-hmm. And it was okay. It was fine, but there was no excitement to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got into commercial, and I didn't expect I'd be in the business this long, but, you know, it's ever-changing.
It is.
It's interesting.
Yes.
Another thing about it is that you don't have a boss. You're an independent contractor.
True.
You hang your license someplace, and you get support from them.
Right.
But you're on your own,
you
know? And I like that. I like that feeling of freedom.
Definitely.
And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in the city it was a little different. You're in a 40,000 square foot office building, and, you know, you got guys just sitting on both sides of you and cubicles all over the place and a little more cutthroat. And that's why I kind of like what you're talking about with the freedom, because when you're sitting there talking with somebody on the phone who has a beautiful property and the two guys are both listening to your conversation, and as soon as you hang up, they call that same guy back. You know, that's not the business I want to be in. So when you talk about a little bit more freedom and being able to just hang your license somewhere and get out and showcase what you can bring to the table, I think, that's what really intrigues me much more than, not that I don't mind making the calls, but, you know, when you're making the calls and somebody's just listening to what you're doing and just poaching off of you, it's not the best feeling.
Well, when you're in a larger market,
you
basically tend to specialize too. If you're in commercial real estate, you do office,
right?
You do industrial,
you have a
you
focus.
do retail,
right.
You do leisure, you do all these different categories. I mean, there's maybe a dozen different categories that you could get involved with.
Yes.
And
we had
when
guys
you're in
that
a
were doing
smaller
hotels.
market, you know, this is a medium-sized market, I would say, that you have the capability of doing everything, and it makes it much more interesting.
It does.
Plus the fact that if your category is slipping or having troubles, maybe interim troubles, but maybe, you know, short-term troubles, you can switch to something else that's hotter, you know? So that's a great thing to be able to have in your quiver, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, to be able to jump from one to the other. You got some experience and you can help. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And that's really what I strive, is just to help. Right. You know, I know people are out there and they're looking and they want to get in, and, you know, how can I help? And maybe not just this, but, you know, it's a relationship. Right. So it's not just about the transaction. It's about building the relationship, building the trust, so that, you know, the feedback, you know, between you and your client, you can build off of that.
It's interesting you say relationship. This is really a very relationship business, isn't it?
It is. It's all about the relationship.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a new listing. I know dozens of people I can call and say, hey, do you have somebody who's looking for this sort of thing?
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and a lot of time. Well, for instance, I had a listing of a building in Brookfield. All right, and it was about 18,000 square feet on 5.5 acres, and it originally had been a Toyota dealership, and then it became a BMW motorcycle dealership.
Okay.
And but they were moving to another location, which was larger, and I knew of a guy outside this market who was looking for a automobile dealer who wanted to do late model used cars, and so I got the listing one day, called them the next day. They were there 2 days later. They saw the place. They made an offer a couple of days later,
Really?
and it's going to close next week.
Wow.
So that's relationships, you know.
That's
It's knowing where to go, who to see, who to call, whatever. You know.
How long from when did you get the listing?
During the summer,
Okay.
and it's going to close now. But of course, you know, you have
There's
all kinds of nothing closes fast in this business.
There's a process, or as the
Yeah.
Canadians put it, the process.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's funny because having lived in Canada,
Yeah.
I can almost tell a Canadian
Right away.
right away. You know, the
words.
inflection that
Yes.
they have and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
It's about is one of the
That's right.
key giveaways.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
We talked, before we get on the air, we were talking Canada. So I'd like to try to get that maybe in the next episode, talk a little bit about, you up there in Toronto and our connection to Canada as well.
yeah. Well, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
It's not quite commercial real estate, but
it provides a little more about your background as well. We talked a little about what I've done, and I'd be happy to get into some of the different experiences I had in Hawaii and some of the people
By the way,
that
I loved Hawaii, but I don't think I'd want to go back again. I've seen it. We took a cruise.
It's far.
We took a cruise, and it touched 4 of the principal islands: Big Island,
Maui,
Oahu,
Hawaii,
yeah. And it was really nice. I really enjoyed it. One of the keys was we were in the ship, and we were near the bottom of the Big Island. The volcano was, and it was sort of like dusk. Volcano was spewing all kinds of fire and everything. That was neat.
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
It's quite the experience. That lava flow just stopped. It had been going since I want to say 81 or 82.
Right.
It had been going until just a couple of years ago. It had stopped flowing. Quite a place. Really, really. Obviously, very unique. Far though. It's a 12-hour flight.
Oh yeah.
It's a 6-hour time difference. So.
Well, when we went, we had a stopover at San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because there was a Coldwell Banker commercial session there, and I was getting an award. Oh. And so we stopped there for 3 or 4 days and then continued on. So it wasn't bad going out. Coming back, we did straight through.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I can't stand more than 12 hours in a plane.
Right.
That's my max.
Yeah. And that's all of that to get out there.
We love to travel, but the only part that we haven't seen is the Far East.
Okay.
And because it's so far, that's what they call the Far East, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a long time on a plane.
Oh, yeah. And once you get there, you got to spend a lot of time there. You can't just,
Oh, I know.
You got family that try to come out to Hawaii and, we'll just be there for 5 days. I said, well, you can't do that. It's going to take you 5 days just to catch up from the jet lag.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I'd love to get into, some of the people that I've been able to meet and, some of the trips I've taken because of those people that I've met. I've got some good stories to share. So
I'm sure. Well, you love to travel. I love to travel. We'll have to share those stories.
Definitely. I look forward to it. And, I also look forward to hopefully collaborating on some deals together, whether it be retail or something at the mall or some development. I'm interested in collaborating and.
Well, we can do those things.
Yeah.
The smaller companies can do it. A lot of the larger companies are basically cutting out their co-brokes.
I know it.
So let's say you have somebody who wants a space or wants to buy something and it's listed by one of the national companies.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay you. So you have to get your client to pay you.
Yes.
And that's a tough type thing to do.
It is. Yeah.
Because they don't want to pay any extra.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of a crimp on the business.
Yeah.
But then again, most of the stuff that you're going to do is within this market.
Right.
They don't have a big presence here,
Yeah.
except for the much larger types of properties.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it may work out for all of us.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think with the smaller firms, it gives us a little more opportunity to do just that, to collaborate, co-broke on certain opportunities that maybe, you're right, a larger corporation, a larger firm, excuse me, wouldn't be able to, co-broke with. Mm-hmm. So,
well, look at it this way: you have a listing,
Yep.
okay, and your client wants you to sell that as quickly as possible.
yeah,
Now, if you keep it to yourself, it's going to take you longer.
it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's income to yourself that's going to take longer as well.
Yeah. But, for me, it's more about making sure that the client is taken care of.
Well, absolutely. That's the point. Yeah. Because, again, there was no saying, there was a company in the appliance business, I think, and they were big on advertising in the market. And they used to say, we'd rather make a slow nickel than a fast dime.
Yeah.
That's a great saying.
It is.
And that's what it is with co-broking,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Of course, you're making more than a nickel, but...
Well, it depends on what you're doing. But I think really it's obviously everybody client-wise is going to say, okay, let's get this thing sold as fast as possible. But, I think you're right, to hold it close to the chest, to not talk to your people about the opportunity could just do damage to yourself and to your client,
Right.
Along with the relationship that you could potentially be building as well with, another agent in your office that you might not have known too much about.
There you go with the relationship business, too.
That's it. That's what it's all.
That's right.
I'm all about that. That's first and foremost for me. The commission is, obviously we all need to make money.
Oh,
but,
come on.
Seriously, if I can show somebody and help somebody, get out of a bad situation or, a relocation, whatever it may be, to me, it makes me feel so much better that I was able to help them get out of something.
Well, I completely agree with
Yeah.
that, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I completely agree with that, but to denigrate money...
Well, of course, like I said, everybody, we're here because we need to earn a living.
Right, exactly.
So, if we didn't, we'd stay in bed all day. So,
Right.
we need to make money, but that's just has driven me towards this industry.
Right.
I could go get a salary somewhere. I could go do that. Sure, go sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day and grind it out. But
Yeah.
for me, I love getting on the phone. I have no problem talking to people. I don't mind a conversation. I just really enjoy helping others. And if it's in, real estate is just something that's been intriguing to me as another arm, but the relationship aspect of it is what really drives me to, be on purpose about what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm kidding about the money aspect.
Yeah,
of
no,
it,
I know.
But I think that working for a corporation, and which I did, maybe you've done it as well.
Yep.
It's amazing how inefficient the whole process is.
Yeah.
There's too much politicking, too much backsniping. My theory is that the people who actually rise to the top are not the most talented or aggressive people, because those aggressive and talented people draw a lot of flack
Yes.
all the way through.
Yep.
So they draw a lot of flack, and then they decide, hey, this isn't the place for me. I'm going to go someplace else.
Yeah.
Okay. The people who sort of like just exist
Yep.
and go on and on and on, slowly rise over the period,
Yep.
and may even wind up in a senior position, maybe even heading the corporation. And then you wonder, how good is that for corporations?
Right.
They don't have the push of the talent to actually help that corporation succeed.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that used to bug the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Because I've always been an active type. I've always felt I owed something to the corporation. I wanted to see them get ahead. I get the impression that you're very much like me, by the way.
Yeah.
And it just was tough, and that's why I moved around a bit, because what the hell, I'm not going to stay here. You
Right.
know? And it made life more interesting too. To be sitting there for years and years at the same job just didn't appeal to me.
Me either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, different route, I guess, with some of the West Coast stuff, but yeah, I mean, same thing. It was more about getting that experience, being with some of those larger companies, being with some of the smaller companies, even in Hawaii, 4 Seasons, and then I went and worked for the Royal Kona Resort, which is owned by Hawaii Hotels and Resorts. They own 3 properties,
Right.
Much smaller situation, older property, more, old Hawaii. So being able to, work with just like a general manager to then the owner versus a corporation where even at the 4 Seasons there, you actually had 2 separate entities. You had the 4 Seasons, and then you had the Hualalai Resort, which is where the 4 Seasons came in. Mm-hmm. So you actually had like 2 different human resources departments and everything. Mm-hmm. So being able to kind of see, like you say, the corporate and more of like who you know versus what you know, and rising to the top, maybe without having the tools in your tool belt to really bring the corporation to the next level.
Right.
Just what you're saying, it just didn't appeal to me as a long-term position. Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, this has always been appealing to me. I just never got my real estate license for some reason. But originally got the license in New York and now have both. So I enjoy being able to go into New York and look at property as well. I think it really does allow a little more flexibility and provide a little more excitement too. Yeah, I think, just going to our next episode, I'd like to dive in a little more, about, maybe some of the stuff that we might be able to do together, maybe some of the things that Scalzo does. I think there's this doesn't have to be just a one-time deal. I think, to be able to...
I'd be delighted. I have a certain feeling that we're on the same page. So
definitely.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
Enjoy it.
I agree. I think this was great. I appreciate the time. Mm-hmm. And, I look forward to the next one.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Bye.